Let the sun shine. 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 Let the sun shine.
Hey, how we doing? What's happening, Doc? What's going on?
Good afternoon, sir. How are you? Well, good evening, I guess. So how are you doing today? I'm good. I'm ready to talk about it today, so let's talk about it.
I know we got a lot going on. It's a lot happening in the world. We're gonna let a couple people get on board. Great day in New York. The weather is good, like 67 degrees, so that brings trouble.
Oh, really? It's not windy there? It's very, very windy here.
No, they say that's tomorrow. It's coming up, so I guess we're getting what you guys get in Philly a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah, but we got a good show for you guys tonight. I have the one and only John G. Taylor, therapist. I have all his credentials in my in the Facebook post of what we're posting tonight. We got a great topic. I know a lot of you guys. We're gonna try to make this topic and really, it's a heavy topic, but we're gonna try to make you guys come out of this with a solution. There's enough people talking about Ahmaud Aubrey in a, I guess, what's the best word? Fearful way. People got a lot of anxiety. So we're going to talk about that and what that brings into our community and how we bring that home and to our family and how we see things. So we want to welcome everybody to the show. Hello, Cheryl, Sonia, Lance. What's going on? Cornelius, Naomi. So what I thought I would do with this topic to bring people together was to give an understanding of what happened in the Aubrey case, which happened in South Georgia. So I just wanted to kind of go through a mini timeline, and then we can dive right into it, and we can get right into what we wanted to talk about today. So for you guys knowing, Aubrey was fatally shot in February 23rd in Brunswick, Georgia. Okay. The first prosecutor recused herself on April 1st. Okay. So there was a gap between February 27th to April 1st. All right. A local newspaper published the details in the police investigation in early April. Then a second prosecutor finds no reason to charge them, but however, he recused himself from the case. That happened 2 weeks later on April 13th. Then a third prosecutor takes over the case. Third prosecutor transferred in District Attorney Tom Duran during the Atlantic Judicial Circuit. He came in on April 26th. So at this time, the family, as you can well imagine, is fear that there will be no action and there was no national attention at this time forever. So it was 2 months had passed and they received no attention outside of Brunswick, Georgia. For those who don't know, I'm a Georgia boy. Brunswick is down on the coast. So it's down on the southeast side of Georgia, near Jacksonville, below Savannah. Then the video emerged on May 7th. And then the McMichaels were arrested on May 8th. The son and the father, son being 34, the father being 64. And then supporters rallied around Aubrey on his birthday. Aubrey was turning 26 on May 8th. And they had a hashtag, I Run With Maud, which shared thousands of times across social media, and his supporters documented their 2.23 mile runs and walks to commemorate the date on when he was killed. Killed Killed him on May 10th. Then there was a Georgia Attorney General they brought in a Republican, Mr. McCarr, a Republican, urged the Justice Department to initiate a sweeping investigation. That happened on May 11th. And then a fourth prosecutor was brought on the case on May 12th. And then the autopsy release. Oh, Mr. Carr also requested that the Georgia Bureau of Investigation investigate possible prosecutorial misconduct by Mr. Burnhill and Ms. Johnson, which were the earlier prosecutors on the case. So autopsy results came out, and it showed that he was shot twice. in the chest and one in the wrist. He had no drugs, no alcohol in the system. He died of a homicide. So it really came out, and it's very interesting because this morning, as we were getting ready to prepare for this, I was reading an article in the New York Times that stated, running while Black, mental checklist, confronted by suspicious neighbors and fear for their lives. And what does that mean? So I know when I thought about this and when we were talking about what we wanted to bring to the people and how people are dealing with this during this pandemic time, we really wanted to kind of talk about the anxiety and the fear and everything that's happening in our community. So as a runner that you are, I know that this affected you in a way that is totally different, and it really came home to you. So, Mr. Taylor, I want to give your thoughts to that because our topic today is I Could Be Aubrey and dealing with mortality salience. So the doctor is going to be the therapist here, my therapist here, Mr. John Taylor, is going to walk us through that and what does that mean. But first of all, we're going to start out with you a runner. So how did this affect you?
So I will tell you, as a runner, and I run marathons, and I have ran 10 so far, and I currently run like 10 to 15 miles a week. Mm-hmm. So as a runner, when I saw this case, I was just taken aback by the mere fact that here's a guy running through his neighborhood, and he is now dead.
Right.
I have ran through many neighborhoods on my training runs for marathons, and I never thought about someone's going to shoot me on a run.
Right.
And so seeing this case come to life in this past period of time has really caused me a lot of anxiety. I was really angry for a period of time. And I also ran on Aubrey's birthday. I did a 2.23 miles in his honor that day because I felt as a runner, it was like a time of solidarity around him and his family. But
right.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that we cannot even feel safe doing something to keep us healthy. So yeah, I was very impacted by this matter.
Right. So you brought up the issue when we were talking mortality salience. Can you define that for the listening audience, and what does that mean, and how does that affect us? Yeah.
So mortality salience is really the key concept of terror management theory. And terror management theory was created in 1986 by 3 social psychologists.
Okay.
And what mortality salience really defined as is the inevitable fear of death. The inevitable fear of death that creates death anxiety, that also causes a lot of stress in an individual's life. It's not about when it's going to happen or if it's going to happen, it's about the time. When will my life end? The inevitable fear that this is at some point someone's going to kill me. I'm going to die in this particular state of my life. So working through all of those challenges in people's lives, because it creates a level of anxiety, also creates stress that people oftentimes triggers their social psychological functions, where there is anxiety, there's a lot of depression, and just a lot of continual worry about survival.
Right. So how do we defend ourselves against this particular action? Because we see it on a daily, almost weekly. We hear about it. If we don't see it, we hear about it. So it automatically triggers, seems to me, the trauma that are being associated with this that's specifically happening to Black men. So how do we defend ourselves against that?
So what I think would do defend ourselves against that process is really thinking about who we are and looking at our culture, who we are as a people. We have been through a lot of adversities as African Americans, right? Through historical perspective, contemporary perspectives. So being able to think about who am I as a person in this world? Who am I that I have been able to handle challenges in the past, and holding on to those concepts, I think, will help us get through this difficult time. And working through mortality salience and being able to be more defined by who you are, not who people see you as.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. It also too, from me and doing the research on it and stuff of that nature, it seems like it shows from a mortality standpoint, in order for us to have a more cultural worldview of ourselves, it seems like it deals with also too, if it really affects you, it's based off of a low self-esteem. So how does one, see the world from different playing fields? Because there are a lot of brothers out there that suffer from this, that don't have low self-esteem. I mean, that has low self-esteem, and they're trying to, better themselves, see the world differently. If you could just leave America, the world is not looking at us the same way. Therefore, when you do travel, you have a different perspective. Because when I travel, I see the world and how the world see us as Black men, and they love us for our culture. However, there are a lot of people here that don't get to see the world and don't get to see us in a different light and see how the world sees us. They only see us how the Americans see us.
Right.
So,
so they're working through looking at our cultural worldview, how we see the world is like, what's our purpose in the world? Who are we in the world we're living in? Makes up our cultural worldview. Who's around us? Who do we surround ourselves with? And in that process, looking at how do we define that more for ourselves in a way that's helpful and impactful. So your cultural worldview oftentimes defines how you show up in the world, show up in spaces where you can command the space you're in by your cultural worldview. What is my purpose for being here? It's how we define what our cultural worldview is.
Right.
And how that impacts us. Yeah. Right. And oftentimes mortality salience is not oftentimes about low self-esteem. It's about the fear impacts your esteem. You can have high self-esteem, but if you're living in consistent fear of, I may be shot today or my life is going to end tomorrow, that can create some anxiety for you. But it's not about low self-esteem. It's about how it impacts you overall on the spectrum. Depression, anxiety, and those kind of emotions.
So it really doesn't matter any socioeconomic playing field. You can experience this, or this can be experienced to you. Because I know there was a case that happened right outside of your neighborhood in Philadelphia. A brother he had just got back to Philly. He lived out in the suburbs in a well-affluent neighborhood. It was late at night. He was in the car with his wife and his daughter. His daughter was in the back seat sleeping, and he was driving. And there was only those winding roads in some of these neighborhoods. There was only 2 lanes, and he didn't pull over. He kept on driving till he got to the suburb. And when he pulled up in the driveway, the officer came, grabbed him out of the car. Now, this is in a very well-to-do neighborhood. Pulled him out, handcuffed him, put him on the ground, did this in front of his wife, did this in front of his daughter. You remember that case that happened in Philly? I mean, that happened down in Philly about a year ago today.
I would say vaguely, but that doesn't surprise me. Happens everywhere.
So anyway, in that regard, this is a man that was affluent, and he didn't expect that this thing was going to happen to him, but he's experiencing this trauma. How do we deal with this, no matter what socioeconomic level, in order to get past this, so we don't go and therefore traumatize and be triggered every time and start, acting this out in another way?
Right. And so one of the ways to deal with this is about by having family and friends to talk to. One of the mechanisms of mortality salience is a coping strategy. Like we cope by people who have similar outcomes we have, similar experiences that we have. We bond with those people, right? So like our family, our friends, our fraternities, sororities, church groups, those membership places. Is how we get through this time, by leaning on people who are also like-minded like we are and help us navigate through these treacherous waters of being a Black man in America. So being able to lean on people that that can also talk about these things, seek a therapist, because it's very easy to internalize racism and take these negative thoughts and behaviors and take them on for yourself. So being able to talk about this to other people, getting it out of your psyche, and communicating the emotional impact it has on you is one way to deal with this crisis. It doesn't become your day-to-day activity. Right. Talking with other people.
Right. Well, I want to use this forum today, especially for men out there. So if you men are listening, you guys got questions, you definitely come on in. Let us know what you're feeling. What are you thinking? How does it make you feel? We got the doctor here. You might not have a therapist, but you got this man right here in front of you. And we can use this hour right now for you guys to vent and to express how you feel. So got a couple of people online. If those who just joined us, we got John Taylor, who's a therapist who deals with these issues. We're talking about Aubrey, the case happened in Brunswick, Georgia, back in February when he was killed. And 2 months later, we just, basically found out the murderers who killed him. So let's see. Sham said, I just did a live on this morning, okay, and was going before going on a run, and how terrified I was running as a Black man. So he's feeling the same thing you're feeling. Damien said, I hear you. I found myself feeling real shaky doing recent runs too. Let's see who else is out here. Sham said, you can't buy your way out of racism. It's it's global, and no Black person qualifies as mentally healthy since we all deal with it. Very true, very true, very true. Let's see. Jason said the movie 12 Years in a Slave says a lot about this modern day phenomenon. So that's true too. When you think about that. But other questions, you guys come on. I see you guys coming on. Mary. Hey, Mary. What's up, Mark? Dr. Lord. How you doing? Mary, what's going on? Sydney. How's everybody? I guess also too, for me, one of the coping mechanisms that I have when I'm dealing around all of this, being that I'm from Georgia, so I've seen and this really doesn't matter where you are. You could be in Georgia, you could be in New York, you could be in California. We've seen that this happens all over the world. But for me, I know when I see, I witnessed this, I don't look at videos. Like I have just cut that out. That because the rage that just builds up in you. And I think the last video I looked at was Trayvon Martin, when Trayvon Martin got killed by George Zimmerman. And I was like, never again, I don't need to look at the video. You can tell me about it, but I don't need to know the details. I really don't want it. And I think that allows me not to, I guess, get frustrated by a system that I know that is not really looking to work in my favor. What are you thinking of? What do you tell your class to come to you that are dealing with traumatic experiences? And that could be traumatic through anything, from war. It could be through, all things from PTSD. This is a method of PTSD. How do you tell your parents to deal with coping? What coping mechanisms do you administer when they come to see you?
And that's a great question, because I think part of the thing is looking at when these events happen, we go back to historical thoughts that happened in the past. And it also makes us look more at ourselves. Is it something about me that brings this behavior on, right? So one of the ways I tell my clients to bring this into a conversation with me about trauma and PTSD around these events is talking more about the idea, doing a life narrative. So looking at people's lives, say there's been a trauma in your life, I encourage my clients to draw through their trauma. So like life before the event happened, life during the event, and then life after the event. And what that helps them do is see how my life has been changed as a result of the trauma that I experienced. And then we look at coping strategies to get through to the next level in their life. And those coping strategies really boil down to things such as meditation, exercising, right? Which is, and now that becomes a thing, but exercising. Also, I'm really a proponent of talking to people, finding a friend, someone you can lean on and share these thoughts with, and also not being defined by other people's thoughts or behaviors of you. Right. So we have to recognize I'm not defined by a racist person. Right. I can't let them define me in my space. Because if I do, then I give my power away. Then who am I? A powerless Black guy living in America, right? We have power. So owning our power, our authenticity is about that, right? So being able to own who we are and not be defined. So really have my clients understand their value, And that coping strategy goes to meditation, exercising, talking to people, and then identifying who they are as a person and not being defined by other people.
Okay.
And also resisting the labels that people throw on to Black and brown bodied people in America.
Right. I mean, I've had my share of dealing with the popo and getting pulled over, and I'm like, you just get exhausted with it, and you're just like, okay, here we go, and then they ask questions. I'm like, you know what? Just take my license and my registration. I'm done. I can deal with you. I don't need to talk. I don't need to say anything. I realize how to deal with them in that space, and so not to get agitated, not for them to agitate you, to keep things moving. And I think there's certain skills that people have to, learn, and it's unfortunate that we have to learn those skills, and you're still doing that. There's a incident that happened to me when I was renting a place over in Brooklyn one night. This happened about 15, 16 years ago when I was renting a place, and there was some problems out in the neighborhood, and I was living in a brownstone, and I was asleep on my couch, and all of a sudden I wake up, and when I wake up, the police is in my house with a flashlight on me while I'm asleep on the couch. My landlord let him in my apartment. So I was mortified. Not that I was you talk about trying to, oh my God, you don't even understand. I mean, I was cool and calm in the situation because I was asleep, number one. But the fact that my landlord did that, I went down, and then after that happened, of course, I had a conversation with him. I went to the police department and all of that, did a whole case and everything. But talking to my landlord, I was just like, do you understand what you just did to my life, what you could have done? He had no understanding. He was Canadian. He was a white man. There was a white Canadian, and he had no understanding. What was I doing? That you made you think that you could open up. So anyway, we had to work through that. So that was very traumatic for me. I got past it because I understood it wasn't about me. It was about the situation that happened.
But I will tell you, Charlie, you said something really interesting earlier, that people have to learn how to behave with the police. I think a lot of families, moms and dads, give their young sons and daughters to talk about when the police approaches you, what you have to do, how you should behave. And I think it's sad that we have to have that talk with our young kids, but it's necessary for their survival, right? As an ex-prison guard and criminal justice person for several years, seeing a lot of inmates in prison talking about the mortality salience piece, the inevitable fear they will be dead at some point in their life. So this has been a systemic issue that we have dealt with a lot in our community. The shortened sense of the future. A lot of young men who come see me who are 18 and above oftentimes say, man, I didn't plan to live this long. I thought I'd be dead by now. So they had no plan for their life after 18. They figured they'd be dead by 18 years old. So now you have a lot of men who are scrambling, trying to find themselves in the world they thought they would not survive in. So this mortality piece has been a part of our historical fabric for years. And so I think it's probably now that we put the language to our story and talk about it in a different context.
Right. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is, and I know that they do a lot of this, a lot of Black men have a lot of, they do a lot of retreats in the church. And I think that comes out at that point. But as far as one-on-one therapy and talking that out, you don't get a lot of that. I also get it to a point where it almost, society has dehumanized us, the Black man, so much. How do we manage the behavior in order to survive in society when they don't see us as humans?
So like my dad would say to me, make them see you as a human being. And by that, I mean, like, show up in a space of being authentic, being assertive, right? Being sure of who you are, and not backing down in the sense of where you are like letting people say anything they want to say to you. right? Because we are human beings. We have value. We have power, and we have to own our space that we walk into every single day. And being able to speak, as my friend Dr. Aubrey says, truth to power, and talk about those things that oftentimes keeps us silent.
Right.
So sometimes the fear of repercussions keeps us silent, but also that silence gives permission to people to treat us badly at times as well.
Right.
So it is about being assertive and not aggressive, but you can be assertive and say, "Hey, that's not okay with me. You cannot talk to me that way." Being firm and fair about who you are and what you would tolerate is important.
Right. And you mentioned the talk. I've noticed that there are a lot of modern day African Americans that don't want to have that talk with their kids because they don't want to stop the kid from being free and having to grow up feeling like they need to be in a cage. And I get that part.
I get that part. Yeah.
I get that part 100%. And I understand it because once you talk, then they all of a sudden they have to start, not being sure where they can go, but will live, and I think there's a way to have that talk about how you do that. How do you talk to parents that need to have that conversation and still with their children? Because you also wrote a book about that conversation of what you need to talk to kids about.
Because both can be true, right? We can encourage kids about the freedom and the future and be open about it. At the same time, we can also have a reality check at time as well. Say, hey, you may encounter this. And when you do, you will have to do X, Y, and Z. So it's about giving giving kids and individuals tools for success ahead. So like laying out the flashlight of what to expect in life, but at the same time, giving them freedom to live their life. Both things can happen simultaneously. When I wrote my book, Puppy Guide for Young Men Without Fathers, I was really talking a lot about the young boys about this talk with authority figures, what to do when, what to do if this happens to you. So it's about educational pursuits as well as reality and talking about both of these things simultaneously because all of them impact our lives.
Right. Okay.
So I don't want any kid to feel like they're in a cage and they can't move forward and can't live their life. But I want all kids to have all the information.
Right.
Not just parts that sound great. Yeah.
Right.
All of it's important.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good point. So Bobby said, what's up, Bobby? Good evening, my good brothers, Charlie and John. The exhaustion is overwhelming. I'm angered by most recent video clips of previous exchange between Ahmaud and the police. Case of character assassination. And that happens a lot. When they start to tilt the story and they go in and was he on drugs? Was he carrying drugs? Was he a thug? What he was wearing, his boots. Why was he running in Timberlands and who runs in Timberlands and stuff of that nature? To paint a picture a certain way, as opposed to when the guy went, I forgot his name, who went into the Charleston church in Charleston, North Carolina, and they took him. And took him to Burger King, and hey, he was hungry, and they wanted to give him a meal. So character assassination is rare. It's very exhausting.
But that really is about the attempt to discredit the experience of a person. If Aubrey was walking through this house under construction, it happens all the time. People do that all the time. Is there a crime in doing that? No. But I put this information out to throw out doubt, throw out reason, to rationalize behavior that's unjustified.
Right.
It's all a ruse to discount behavior of people who do bad things.
Right. And I think it goes back to my point earlier about the dehumanization of us, of not making us be an equal, hey, I'm a runner, an upstanding citizen who just happened to run into walking through a neighborhood or whatever the case may be, running.
Whatever, right, yeah.
Everybody does that. When you go through a neighborhood and you see something, you're like, oh, let me go up there. You run up, you see, and you run back. I mean, I don't do that.
That's me.
But
I've done that.
Yeah. But a lot of people do that. They're always checking stuff out to see, oh, that's a nice house. Let me go check it out.
Right.
You know.
Because also I can tell you also, I'm sorry, the best way to see any city is to run through it. So the best way to see any neighborhood is to run through that neighborhood. So we oftentimes take runs for a scenic view. So yeah, nothing's wrong with that.
Right.
No, I'm sorry. You have a question?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Mark said, true, rage is correct. Do you think black men should register to get a gun?
What was the question?
Do
black men should register
to get a gun?
Well, so I grew up with guns, and I'm a country dude. So my dad has several guns at home. I currently don't own a gun, but I had one in my criminal justice career. I don't want to say people should go out and buy guns. I'm not going to say that, but I think it's important that we find ways to protect ourselves in a way, right? So like let our voice speak for us. Now, someone's going to come and attack me. Sure, I'm all about self-defense.
Right.
But you don't run with a gun.
Right. Right. Oh, you don't do it.
Where are you going to put it? So that's not something that we would do. I mean, so I think I would not say go out and buy a gun.
Right.
Because violence does not solve violence.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So I would not say that to be a good idea.
Let's see. Sham said nothing was more castrating than driving with my daughter in the back and her saying, "Daddy, slow down before the police kill us like they kill Auntie Miriam." That messed me up.
Wow.
Sham had a situation where his sister-in-law was shot and killed. I think in D.C. if I'm correct, Sham. By police brutality. So this is a young girl who's dealing with that trauma and understanding at a young age. And I think she's about 8 or 9, 10 years old. And she already know this, what's happening. So it affects everybody in the family. It just doesn't affect the person or the parents, but then also to the friends, the aunts, the aunties. Everybody is affected when they feel this and they continue to see that. So do you advise the family to get therapy when something like this happens?
Yes, I advise everyone in the household to come to therapy because if it happened to me, it happens to everyone that knows me. My family is impacted. So I think it's important for everyone in the family to come into a therapy office and talk about these challenges. The last holiday with this person, the no more birthdays with them, the loss of life they are experiencing, the trauma of seeing this happen to their loved one, or just the thought of it happening to them. Right. So I think therapy is important for everyone in the family who's connected to this individual to seek some help. Right. Because it lingers, and if it's not addressed, it can turn into anger that's unresolved, which becomes displaced and resentful, and then it changes you from the inside out. So really come in and talk about all those things to help you not become somebody that you don't want to be.
Right, because you got to want to not be an angry person or a person filled with rage. You have to,
because there's reasons to be angry, right? But you have to work.
Yeah,
trust.
Everybody black in America got a reason to be angry.
I have a list, right?
Yes,
but I have chosen not to be, because then what does that do? I'm powerless then.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean,
I'm not giving that away to anyone. Yeah,
no, it's true. Jason said, I feel some type of way walking into a store wearing a mask, feeling guilty of nothing. Thought I was being watched and followed before, multiplied that anxiety by 10. I really check my energy before I leave the house. Try to be zen as possible. I can identify with that one. Even just walking into the store, knowing that I can afford to buy whatever I wanted to buy, whatever the case may be, and people still looking at you like, you still have that look, it still exists, and so you shake it off, But I think a lot of people resorted to other things of buying stuff online, not to just even experience that and have that experience.
I know there was a moment one of my clients was saying to me the other day that he would not wear a mask in public because he doesn't want to be seen as a criminal, or he's afraid that he may be attacked. So he's putting his life at risk by not wearing a mask to save his life.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's deep. You know,
that's insane, right? But that's the state of someone where we are in this country right now. The people are afraid to wear a mask to save their life because they may be shot otherwise. So I would not wear a mask to save my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
By ignorance and incompetence is a luxury. I agree 100% with that. Sham said those frontliner retreats, Charlie, were lifesavers for me. Don't know about you. That was the church me and him went to church to at Frontline. I've always been going to, when I get into a church, I go to the men's retreat because, for one, I think it's just a great way to meet everybody that's in the neighborhood,
Right.
different brothers from different places, and you see different things, because I'm not exposed to some of the life things that they were exposed to and vice versa. And you really learn a lot. So I encourage all men to put yourself into some type of forum to have a communication. To have some type of communication to release some of that. So I'm in agreement with you, my brother. Damon has a question. He said, as a therapist, what do you think about therapy for young Black boys? I'm thinking of my 11-year-old nephew. I want him to feel comfortable confiding in me. However, I realize that often young people need an outside voice to verify or co-sign what they are and will experience in their skin. I'm wondering about this in addition to the talk. Yeah.
I believe as a therapist, it's important for young boys to come into a therapy office. It doesn't take anything away from the parent. It can enhance that relationship with the parent. Because if I see a kid, I also see their parent, right? Because the kid goes back home to someone. So having everyone come into the session is important. But what I do for my young clients is I would say, this is our conversation we're going to have. I would not share with your parents what we talk about unless you want me to. However, you say you're going to kill yourself, kill them, or harm someone else, I would tell those things.
Right.
But I would like to keep our confidentiality so a client can share whatever it is. But I think oftentimes, once we give people permission, it's okay to talk about what they feel as young boys, young girls, people in general. It can enhance the father and the mother relationship with their child, because now that kid is able to share all of their feelings and not keep secrets.
Right.
So we want, right? So being able to have an open space, and so the kid can feel comfortable sharing with you their lives. But I think therapy is good for a person of any age, whether you're 11, 85, we all can talk about something that's happening in our lives.
Right. And especially in our culture where we are a culture that has so many secrets, and you don't talk about that. Big you don't talk about that. Everybody know about that already. That's been discussed. And you're trying to figure out what's been discussed, what's been talked about, Why don't we want to talk about that? I want to know, because I used to challenge my aunt all the time. Why don't we talk about what happened to your brothers, and sisters? I told you, and she would say, I told you they're dead. And I was just like, I was like, see, this is why we can't move our family down the road, because everybody is holding on to something, and people don't really realize the effect that has. Are we seeing more organizations where people, especially in the Black community, can go and get therapy, or you can get assistance for free and stuff? And that depends on age, because I think everybody thinks that therapy is something that you got to have money in order to. You have to have money in order to have a therapist. Is that
right? So that's not necessarily true. There are a lot of agencies in the city of Philadelphia that provides therapeutic services to individuals. If they have public insurance, they can go to a therapist. Private insurance, they can go to a therapist as well. I'm not aware of a lot of free therapy places. You can go in for free, but if you have insurance to public health, public welfare, you can get insurance. There's also cash paying therapists, cash accepting therapists as well. But if you need a therapist, you can find one. There are a lot of agencies in the city that you live in. I would encourage anyone who's looking for a therapist, you can go to psychologytoday.com, put in your zip code, it would give you all the therapists in your area.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also select, do you want a Black, white, Hispanic, male, female, LGBTQ therapist? Whatever you want, you can find on Psychology Today. But all communities, neighborhoods should have a therapist in their community that would do services for all socioeconomic status individuals. So,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. And you can also do it like we're doing it now, virtually with telehealth.
All my clients I'm seeing now due to the pandemic, I am seeing all my clients do telehealth, teletherapy sessions.
Right.
And that's also a way to get a therapist. So there's really no excuse to not find a therapist. You can find one. It may take you a little time to find the one you want. Because as a Black male therapist, there's not many of us in the world doing this work. I want more of my Black brothers to join us in the work as a therapist. So we're kind of hard to find. But once you find us, you found a good person. So
right. I agree.
Thanks for that. Appreciate that.
I agree with you on that one. That's a good one. So let's see. Bobby said, will this be recorded to share with others? Yes, Bobby, it will. Sham said, to answer Damien's question, I would strongly encourage you to introduce a culturally relevant therapist to your nephew to save his life. Don't abuse him with cultural clueless. I can't even talk tonight. Clueless therapist that is more harmful than helpful. And
that is important.
Yeah. Talk about that.
It is important to find a therapist. Finding a therapist is like finding a diamond in the rough in most cases.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of therapists doing the work, but they're not good therapists. So it's important to, when you meet with your therapist, ask them things you are curious about. Like we don't give a lot of our personal lives to clients. It's not about us. It's about you.
Mm-hmm.
But you can ask for credentialing information. You can talk about some of their pathology, some of their expertise in areas, things they are good at doing and talking about. That's important to ask therapists about those things, their credentials.
Mm-hmm.
It's also important you want to know that therapist's worldview, how they see the world in some ways. And does that help you find the right person for your life? But it's important to, ask the therapist the right questions about what you need, and you can get that. And you can find it out pretty quickly.
Okay. Is there like a checklist, an assessment checklist that you go through when you're looking for a therapist as far as to say, is this guy sane? Does this guy know what he's talking about? He can help me along. Because also, too, when I came to you, like I said, for you guys out there who don't know, and it's the first time to the show or you're listening, I got to John through my our resident host, Dr. R.G. Allen Wilson. I knew what I was looking for before I turned 50. I said I wanted to be the best person on the other side of 50. And she said, oh, I got somebody to talk to you could talk to. His name is John Taylor. And then she gave me another guy as well. And I called and I knew exactly what I wanted to achieve when what I came to you to identify with. And then also too, like there was a stopping point where I knew, okay, help me. I know what I'm doing now, so you gotta have, I think you gotta have a realization of what you're trying to also work out within yourself.
Right. So it's important to come to therapy knowing, hey, this is being aware of what am I struggling with?
Mm-hmm.
And then bring that into the room. I don't read, I'm not a mind reader, right? So you can't come say, hey, I want therapy. I'm gonna say, okay, so you gotta tell me some things I can work with, right? It's also important, I think, Charlie, when you came, I think you were ready for the work and you came in, you put the work in. Driving 2 hours to a session in Philadelphia from New York was ideal to me. I think this guy really he wants to put the work in and doing that work and being part of the journey. But it is about what's going on for me that I need help.
Right.
And can I bring my true self forward? It's also good, I think, for a therapist to get a referral from someone. Mm-hmm. Someone that you know, who you trust and believe, who's a therapist, been to a therapist, and give you a referral. Most of my clients now come through referrals from their family and friends.
Okay.
So So yeah.
All right. Mary Elliott said there are several churches that offer therapy ministries involving some of their licensed members in an effort to serve their membership and their community members. I know you're part of that as well, too, right? I know RG is a part of that church. You do that too?
Eden Tabernacle, we have a therapy service, a counseling service there. Yeah. For members to come and get help if they need it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And then Rocky said some employees have employee assistant programs, EAP, which offer three free therapy sessions as well. So yes, that's when we, I guess the trauma. I think when a lot of people realize, I don't think personally that a lot of people realize what trauma they're triggering when going back to the Aubrey case, when they keep posting videos and people start seeing these videos over and over and over on repeat. Is there something that's going on there? Are they triggered and are they acting out the rage by continuing to post this stuff? What's going on with it? Or you think, I don't think they're trying to inform. I mean, I think they're trying to inform, but also too, I think there's something else behind that motive there. What's happening?
Well, I think it's a dual situation happening here. I think one, the person's continuing to post these videos, of Aubrey, Tamir Rice, the list goes on, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the goal is I believe first is to inform. Hey, people, this is going on. Have you seen this? Do you know about this case happening here? So I think it's okay to make people aware of what's happening in the world. I think the other part that can get attached to that could be this sense of agency. Like, this is an emergency. This is a crisis happening. We got to do something about it. So getting people to advocate for the wrong that's happening in the world, right? So I think it's about awareness, it's about advocation. And I think sometimes people are not doing it intentionally, but I think the continual, the reposting of videos in this case does have people an impact of people in their traumatic spaces where they are in the inability to go to sleep at night. They're unable to go to sleep from these horrific images being played into their brains over and over again. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's important maybe to not post the video again. It's been posted 5 or 6 times. Don't repost it. Because someone can see that and be traumatized based on their own experiences of one of their friends, something they've seen in the past. So I think it's a complicated case. I think more importantly, people are trying to inform people of what's happening and for us to come to action to advocate. But at times can come a little more traumatic if it's overdone.
Right, and I think there are two.
I think it's about the balance. I think.
Right, and I think there are two things with cases like this. Yeah. Either you're going to be an advocate, and you're going to go and you're going to say, "Hey, I want to do something about it." Because posting to me is doing anything. Posting to me is yes, it's out there, it's tragic. I could just read it. I don't need to see the video. You can just tell me that this happened, and that's good enough for me. Then there is what's the solution? What are we going to do, to stop this? And I find sometimes that we get paralyzed as a race because I don't see where we're moving that needle, to work through public policy and stuff like that. But that's not why we're here. We're here to try to lighten some levity to this because it's around, but it's how do we cope, in this thing. So how do we cope? Let's lead the people on a coming out of this. How do we need to be able to do in order to cope with the pressures that society does to release us from having, these feelings of one, like you said, inevitable death. So I guess that's not feeling valued in that space and not thinking that your life matters. How do we move that needle, or what do we do, or what can we do, in your opinion?
Well, I think what we can do, is to recall who we are. We come from a long line of overcomers, people who, our ancestors, our parents, who have fought through a lot of tragedy. So we're standing on our shoulders, a lot of people's shoulders in our lives today. So letting that, one, empower us. We are overcomers. B, being able to use your community. We have a lot of people. We have our Howard University crew of people that you are a part of, I know, right? Our fraternities, our sororities, our church groups, our family, our friends, use those people also as resources to lean on in times of despair.
Right.
Also being able to, for yourself, define who you are. Like, what are you good at? Where's your power? What is your greatness around? You're not defined by another person's view of you. You're defined by your own view.
Right.
The other way to cope is about self-love. Learning to love yourself.
Right.
And,
No.
And also,
yep.
And also validation of self. I don't need you to validate me. If I don't validate myself first, it's non-void what you tell me. Right? So really about self-validation.
Right.
Other part I think is really about this meditation. Being able to, if you are a spiritual person, being able to pray or have a spiritual guide in your life. So I think those are some of the things that would get us through these times. And also being able to laugh. Find people in your life that make you want to laugh.
Right.
That make you want to tell a good joke. Kind of ease some of the tension in the world. Because I said earlier, we can be angry. There's a lot to be angry about.
Right.
We can also choose to have joy in our lives as well.
Right.
Joy in the midst of chaos.
Right.
I think all of those principles there are good coping strategies to move forward in times of chaos and disarray.
Okay. Do you guys have any last questions coming that you guys want to ask Mr. Taylor here before we end this discussion? But I definitely agree with the whole self-care aspect of it. And I think crafting out your life and knowing how you want to live your life, knowing that you want to remove yourself from any negativity. Because even just like with this pandemic, I said there are two ways you can come out of this pandemic. You can come out of it bitter or better. So you choose what you want to be. Do you want to be bitter and be upset and be mad at the world and everything? Or do you want to take this time to put in the work? I think life is about continuously putting in the work so then therefore you can be a better person and you can offer up the people that's in your life just so much more than to sit there and look at someone and just be that old grouchy man or woman, And I think a lot of people don't realize that, when it comes down to it, a lot of people, it's so easy to be bitter, and so upset. Jason says, one question: how can we reach the therapist if interested in his services? I have all his information, Jason. I'll definitely leave it up into the header when we hang up tonight. When we get off this live show, I have all his information. He's on Twitter, he's on Facebook, he's everywhere. But he is definitely the man. But so, Mr. John, I want to thank you for coming and sharing with us Mortality Salience and understanding the anxiety and the stuff that we're feeling is real. And that we need to learn how to protect ourselves and basically protect who we are and our minds, so we will not fall into some of the things that it seems as though society it's almost like a trap. It seems like just you stay away from the trap, and how can we do in that way. So in parting tonight, what advice did you have and your share of wisdom that you want to share with the listening audience?
So what my advice tonight would be, as if I would just say to people, hold on to who you are. Believe in yourself. Believe in your family and friends. And really don't be defined by anybody else's narrative about who you are. You get to choose your narrative every single day. Don't be defined by other people. That's what I like to say.
All right. Well, that ends our show tonight. I have all my information up there. You guys, I will not be in tomorrow night because I got a big meeting to go to, but I'll be in all during the day at 12 o'clock. You can catch me on my Lunch and Learn. We're going to be talking about the current state of real estate in New York. And then I have a 3 o'clock appointment, but I'll be back Thursday night with Nikita Stewart. We're going to be talking about Truth 6000. So until then, see you guys later. Love the way you live. Peace out, man.
Let the sun shine. Let the sun shine. Let the sun shine. Let the sun shine. Let the sun